We return to the world of the second season, where attractive young people relax by the pool, seemingly oblivious to the zombie apocalypse. A nice lady puts the phone on the table, and an elderly hand picks up the phone, making a call to a well-dressed bald guy known only as a man. A man has a metal container full of hooded prisoners from his notorious list. And one name hasn't been crossed out yet: Dr. Harold Teller. Dr. Teller is in the Mercy Lab, which is now an isolated complex where a handful of survivors live. They don't want to give Teller to a man, so the man takes an almost wild child hostage, whom he calls Nature Boy, and says he will return in 24 hours when Dr. Teller shows himself better. The Nature Boy comes to his senses and runs away from the man's car when he sees that there is a live zombie in the trunk with him. The guy runs through the wilderness and literally stumbles upon 10K, who, along with Roberta, Eddie, Doc and Cassandra, who is in a state of semi-coma, deals with a horde of zombies. Murphy is there too, holding Lucy, his zombie baby. After a short skirmish with the sister of a natural boy, Ed.
Calm down. What does a person want from the people on this list? Nobody knows.
The gang returns the brothers and sisters to the camp.
Friends, they came to help.
Soon they are hired by Dr. Harold Teller to help protect this place from a man and his armed henchmen. There are rumors that man is a kind of avenging angel, punishing scientists who are in some way connected with the outbreak of the zombie virus. Since he allegedly only worked on mushroom-based painkillers, Dr. Teller doesn't understand why he ended up on the human list. The true nature of Teller's work is revealed and Murphy begins to hear whispering voices. He follows them to Teller's lab, where he discovers two grotesquely deformed people locked in a room and begging for mercy. The finding becomes even more disturbing when it turns out that one of them is Dr. Taylor's wife, Dr. Sarah Taylor. The Taylors worked on creating a cure for the Zet virus based on the fungus. When the zombies attacked the lab, the medicine spread through the air, protecting the infected from the Z virus, but instead turning them into terrible fungal monsters.
Zombies have infiltrated the lab. My wife Sarah was my partner. An amazing scientist in his field. I had no choice. They were poisoned by a poisonous form of the fungus.
Murphy is deeply shaken by this and wants to leave, but Roberta convinces the team to stay and help protect this place from man. Meanwhile, 10 has become close to a red-haired and natural boy, whom Doc calls 5 after he began to dress like his new hero, black hair and all that. Heel was raised by crows, so he definitely has survival instincts. He is also quite proficient with a slingshot thanks to the lessons of 10K. At sunset of this very strange day, Roberta conducts a reconnaissance around the perimeter and notices a man. It turned out to be a zombie bait, and Roberta was knocked down by a man and his soldiers. She is now being held among hooded prisoners, although the gang in the lab decides to stick with what Doc calls Plan A. Plan A includes a lot of red paint, as the walls of the complex and large metal sheets have been painted in a fresh color, turning the laboratory into a rather intimidating-looking fortress. Everyone is dressed for battle in red protective suits, and the color scheme evokes thoughts of violence, blood and heat. Is this enough to alarm a person? He has brought his own red object, Roberta's bandana, and he wants to exchange it for Dr. Teller. Doc demands proof in life and gets it with a vengeance when Roberta goes on the radio, freed from the metal shed due to the fact that Pyatka knocked out the guard with a slingshot. In response, the man releases a horde of zombies, which allows everyone to demonstrate the shooting skills they learned from Roberta. She's 10, Red and 5 return to the house to keep the red heat going. Then the man uses his trump card, a squad of zombies, who are protected from bullets thanks to their homemade metal helmets. It is impossible to hit the head. The zombie berserkers turn out to be too strong for the gang, and they return to the lab, where Sarah and her friends, mushroom monsters, demonstrate their fighting skills by cracking down on human thugs. Unfortunately, Sarah is badly injured, prompting Dr. Teller to finally spare his wife. At this moment, the wall explodes, and a man dressed in a homemade suit appears from under the rubble, Saransk film and adhesive tape, and a helmet. He knocks out Dr. Teller and takes him away, and Murphy looks after him in horror. The gang deals with the remaining zombies, protected from mercy, with the help of a cleverly staged shootout and at least one ferocious blow of the bat performed by Eddie, and gets out of the laboratory. Looking up, they see a helicopter carrying a metal container with human prisoners heading in an unknown direction. Red's heart breaks when Ten reports that the heel is nowhere to be found, and she rushes into a horde of oncoming zombies in a mad rage. A metal container is delivered to the posh house that we saw at the beginning of the episode. The captives are escorted to the pool, where their hoods are removed, and they appear before their unknown master. Meanwhile, Pyatka is lying in a field surrounded by murderous crows. At the end of Robert's second season, Eddie, Doc and Hector find themselves surrounded by Pan-Asian soldiers. The leader of this squad is called Sun Mei, and she came all the way from Beijing to find Murphy and bring out medicines for the zombie virus. After some initial tension, the Operation Bitmark gang establishes friendly relations with the Sun Brigade, and together they embark on a hike through the wilderness to reach the supply point. They have to deal with the usual annoying zombies, but a new threat has appeared in the city: crazy, hungry, feral people known as Enders. Fortunately, Song Mei's team is well equipped with modern weapons, such as an anti-bomb grenade, which uses several green lasers as an aiming mechanism and shoots nail-like projectiles, which explode when hit, and they give Edie a new and improved bat equipped with shocking new features. Murphy makes it to shore with the submarine captain and Dr. Murch, who is under his control thanks to Murphy's bite. And Ten is also with him, alive and not too excited about being united with his most unloved person on the planet. Now Murphy is completely disillusioned with humanity, and he is not going to provide medicines for the zone, so he develops his own post-apocalyptic plan. Populate the world with Blees, who are essentially people under Murphy's control. Meanwhile, the road to the supply point turns out to be treacherous, and Song Mei loses all his troops on the way, and when they finally get to the supply point, they find themselves looted. Murphy is the first to reach the warehouse, and there is a heated fight between him and Roberta when he drives up in a fortified military vehicle. Murphy even has a sniper in case Roberta or someone else tries to do something funny. 10K, who is now bitten by Murphy. After failing to convince Roberta and the gang to join his cause, Murphy leaves, leaving them to get to Hector's truck and embark on their new mission to prevent Murphy from starting a new race of blends. Citizen Z and his dog were rescued from freezing by a girl named Kaya. The last time we saw him, Citizen Z seemed to have settled on a half pension in a zombie-free outback with his aunt and Uncle Kai. The episode ends with the appearance of a man who has a piece of paper with Murphy's name on it. Then he follows the tire tracks. The gang gets on Murphy's trail while Sun Mei tracks down his stolen military vehicle, which Hector affectionately calls Murphy Mobile. However, they soon discover that Murphy has thrown the transponder into the belly of a zombie. They have no idea where he is now, and here they are in McCloud, California, with a shortage of gasoline, food and supplies. However, they find an unlikely ally in Ollie Becker, a former postal worker who still drives a mail truck and hides in the local post office. He seems lonely. He slowly goes through all the undelivered and unopened Christmas cards, but he is harmless enough. He also feeds zombies allegedly killed on the road, which puzzles the team. The zombified residents of McCloud also follow him wherever he goes, because they remember and love me, he says, but Robert is more than suspicious, especially because the zombies pass by everyone else without even noticing them. Song Mei tries to contact her lab via a two-way radio at a local carpool, but all she manages to catch is melancholic music. Apparently, this is a code that says that her mission has been disrupted, and all her reinforcements have died. Meanwhile, in the north, Kaya persuades Citizen Z to take up sports and recuperate so that he can return to the air, although Citizen Z wonders if there is anyone left who listens to his broadcast. Kaya gets discouraged when she can't catch a single signal on her radio until she comes across music played by Sun Mei's people. She says it's beautiful, but Citizen Z says it's sad. Eddie suddenly tries to radio Citizen Z, who is still living with Kai and her family. He hears her, but the equipment he has is not powerful enough to contact her. The walkie-talkie goes off, and Eddie is upset. The Roberts and the others pick them up in a mail van. Eddie and Doc talk about Song Mei's people and how they failed to contact Citizen Z. In the north, Citizen Z is shocked that he got the biggest portion at dinner. He distributes his food to the others, but they eat it in seconds. He realizes that Kaya, her grandmother and Uncle Koska are actually starving, which Kai admits and shows him his already meager food supplies, which are almost over. Citizen Z says he knows where they can get food. Back at the post office, our survivors were finally getting their fill and they were tired of not having an explanation for why zombies are being chased only by Ollie. Roberta takes the gun from Ollie, and Song Mei takes a blood sample from him. Ollie was not bitten and there is nothing unique in his blood. Alia takes offense at being pestered and tells them to leave town as soon as he gives them food and supplies, to which Roberta agrees. Song Mei stays at the main office to do additional blood tests, while Ollie leads everyone else to the basement, where, according to him, there is a fully equipped civil defense shelter for the entire district. In fact, there are the bodies of several postal workers and a horde of zombies waiting to deal with them. Insidious Ollie escapes while Roberta and the gang are fighting zombies in the pitch-black darkness. Wally takes Song Mei away at gunpoint to his personal workshop, a room filled with the remains of unfortunate passers-by, which he uses to feed his zombie horde. Wally is tired of 17 long years of working as a mailman, never receiving greeting cards or love letters, and instead he is hated as a guy who is late with the delivery of a salary or an unnecessary catalog. On the first day of the zombie apocalypse, Alia wanted to take revenge on them for their attitude towards him and killed his colleagues, as well as all the residents of the city. Since he was the last person they saw before turning into a zombie, they are now fixated only on him. Song Mei manages to get to the door and open it, letting in a bunch of zombies who quickly attack and kill Wally, finally turning him into one of them. She reunites with the gang, and they hurriedly leave the city, while Ollie, turned into a zombie, wanders through the streets of McCloud. Meanwhile, Murphy's team is stuck in traffic, which in a zombie apocalypse means the appearance of a car blocking an already impossibly narrow roadway. It's a young couple whose little girl is dying, and Murphy, genuinely touched, offers to help her and gives her his bite. Murphy and company arrive in Spokane, Washington, where there is a mighty waterfall that seems to be the key to Murphy's plan to populate the world with Blendami. They open a shop in the long-forgotten Museum of Progress, where Murphy finds a place for Dr. Murch's laboratory, his own bizarre inner sanctum and, of course, the throne room. Oh, and a room for Lucy. Tan is surprised to find out that she is still alive, and then discouraged when he is assigned to the cleaning duty. Murphy is lounging on his throne when Dr. Murch informs him that he has guests, young couple whose girl he bit. Parents thank Murphy not only for the fact that he cured their daughter, but also for the fact that she stopped being afraid. The girl jumps on Murphy's lap and hugs him, and the husband asks, "Would you bite my wife?" Murphy smiles. In the north, Citizen Z, Pup, Kaya, Nano and Uncle Koska get on a sled and bravely overcome the icy road, returning to the Northern Light military base. Roberta, Hector, Sun Mei, Eddie and Doc stumble upon several gutted zombies hanging on a bridge, on the wall of which the word Civs is written in blood. After the zombies have been freed and destroyed, the gang meets several locals armed with weapons who claim that their city has been captured by the Red Hand, a mad group of Avengers taking orders from a mythical figure known as the Scorpion. Just at this time, the Red Hand attacks, and the gang retreats to an abandoned novelty factory, where Hector decides that the Scorpion is either someone posing as him or simply adopted his former villainous brand. Meanwhile, Doc and Sun Mei are preparing to perform an impromptu dental operation on Eddie, who has an inflamed tooth, which makes her almost incapacitated. Roberta asks locals Clive and Ryan why their town has become a target for the Red Hand. Apparently, they were just about to do this, as they deprived the Red Hand of food supplies, which caused the exclamation of thieves on the bridge. The Red Hand attacks again, storming the factory with Molotov cocktails and zombies tied to dynamite. Roberto almost dies in an explosion. I need you. After that, Clive and Ryan notice a tattoo on Hector's arm, which identifies him as a scorpion. If this is not the scorpion he is mistaken for. Hector has no choice but to kill them both, after which the Red Hand retreats, and the gang sets off again. Meanwhile, at the Museum of Progress in Spokane, Murphy forces Dr. Murch to prepare a vaccine that will turn an ever-increasing number of his followers into blends and thereby begin a new Murphy order. Murphy feels weak because of the blood he donated for research, and Murch informs him that he needs periodic injections of the original Z-virus vaccine, otherwise he will become the same as Patient Zero in Colorado. Dr. Murch injects 10K with the original vaccine, which she secretly took herself. This frees them from control. She and 10K plan to destroy the blend vaccine and get out of there, but Murphy finds out about their betrayal and gives Dr. Murch a new mind-controlling bite. Before Murphy has time to test the vaccine mixture on him, 10 runs away with a satchel full of the original vaccine.
Catch him, he has medicines. Follow him, all behind him.
And jumps into the raging rapids of the waterfall so that Murphy's thugs don't catch him. Finally, Dr. Murch takes desperate measures to get out of Murphy's control once and for all. She wanders into his zombie moat and injects herself with the original vaccine, causing the zombies to swarm and overtake her, and Murphy screams in protest. 10K manages to survive after diving into a waterfall. But as soon as he returns to shore with a package of the original vaccine, known as Murphy's medicine, one crisis after another sets in. Murphy's main thug, Will, has already set off in pursuit, and he quickly gets on the trail of 10 in the forest, thanks to drops of blood from a newly opened wound on the stomach of 10K. In this harsh wilderness, 10 finds an unexpected guardian angel, Red, his deceased potential girlfriend. Edition helps 10K to get through these bad lands, and that's good. There is some new threat that haunts our hero, something similar to a pack of wolves, but different. 10K manages to get a motorcycle and a gun from some poor guy passing by, but soon he becomes victims of a trap left by a couple of bandits, and finds himself chained to an abandoned car. Deprived of his usual weapons, 10K is forced to resort to using car parts, windshield wipers, hubcaps to fend off attacking zombies. Will drives away the remaining zombies thanks to the power that Murphy's bite gave him, and takes 10 prisoners while they follow the motorcycle tracks to the bandits and, hopefully, to Murphy's stolen medicine bag. Will doesn't understand why 10 wants to get out of Murphy's influence. After all, it was Murphy who saved Will's family and freed him from fear. After a zombie attack, when 10 turns out to be helpless to defend against him, our hero begins to think that Will may be right. Just at this time, they stumble upon a stolen motorcycle and the remains of one of the bandits. So many footprints leading in all directions. Will freaks out a little and insists that they return to Murphy immediately, but 10 runs away, pretending that he committed suicide by jumping off a cliff. At this moment, 10 hears the screams of his deceased protege Heel, nicknamed Natural Boy. He follows the sound and finds a clearing where several wolf-like creatures are huddled. 10K kills them all with a metal pole and is shocked when, turning over the heel, he discovers a female bandit, now turned into a zombie. After finishing it, 10 takes the package with Murphy's medicine and enjoys the last hallucination, and 5, who in this world of dreams or the afterlife has gained the ability to speak and now has 1,139 zombie murders on his account. Meanwhile, Murphy gets a little mad, well, more so than usual, anyway, when interrogating the bloody remains of Dr. Murch, who sacrificed herself in the zombie ROV to not serve Murphy for a second. Murphy doesn't understand why Dr. Murch committed suicide instead of living in the world he's trying to rebuild, and doesn't understand anything written in her notes. Having given in to his desire, since he was not taking medication, Murphy begins to eat Dr. Murch's brain and can subsequently understand all the scientific speech in her diary. It looks like he will be able to continue the work she started. The episode ends with Will returning to Murphy and declaring that 10K is dead. Murphy does not believe this and believes that 10K will return to Roberta and the gang. Doc managed to separate from the group and unwittingly end up in a mental hospital in Serenity Falls, a psychiatric hospital filled with a motley group of patients dominated by Nurse Ratched and who are surrounded by zombies.
Welcome to the apocalypse, man. You can pass for normal these days, seriously. Oh, it's purely for medical purposes.
After Doc is knocked down by a patient who fancies himself Elvis, he wakes up in a straitjacket under the close attention of Nurse Ratched and her squad. They overheard him say that he was a doctor, and Doc's quick psychological analysis of all the patients was impressive enough to release him from the straitjacket and accept him as a colleague of Nurse Ratched. Ratched then leads Doc to the last and most troublesome guest of the institution, 10K, who is in a state of almost catatonic due to the lack of a vaccine that does not allow him to get under Murphy's control. Nurse Ratched has prescribed a lobotomy for a new patient, but Doc convinces her that he is only suffering from a 10K fever and needs medication. At the other end of the Z ward, where zombies who turned into electroshock therapy live, there is a pharmacy with a full set of medicines. Doc and Elvis walk through the wing. And they get to the drugs, returning just in time to prevent Nurse Ratched from carrying out her lobotomy plans.
What the hell did you do?
After Doc injects 10 co-improvised cocktail, he begins to give patients medications that can really help with various diseases. Then Elvis brings 10K, who feels super weak, but at least to some extent sane. 10K tells Doc about Murphy's plans to create a new world order in Spokane, after which they try to escape from the institution. Unfortunately, Doc and 10's escape attempt is thwarted by Nurse Ratched, and she forces them to put on straitjackets. After Doc tells her about their mission to bring Murphy to the Center for Disease Control to grow a cure for the Z virus, Ratched is more than sure that they are delusional. She prepares to lobotomize Doc, but a bulky patient named Bob comes to the rescue and kills her. Patients are rebelling. Doc manages to rally the patients and run to the bus parked on the street just as the zombies break through the weak barricades of the building.
And here he is. I hope he's on the move.
As soon as everyone is on the street, 10 falls and the patients leave him and Doc, leaving by bus.
How are you? Come on, it's time to go.
Doc discovers that Murphy has been bitten by 10, and, desperate for his friend, wonders if the ampoules in his bag are medicine or what makes him sick. Doc swears to knock out Murphy's teeth, and 10K makes him promise not to tell Roberta and the others about his condition. The episode ends with the patients being sent to an unknown destination aboard their crazy bus, having run over zombies along the way. A man walks through an open desert. Someone shoots him, misses, and the man beheads him with his machete. The corpse has a tattoo of a bulldog on his arm. Meanwhile, the poor bastard is being chased through the woods by a group of zombie kids tied together and led by a weighty one of Murphy's officers. The poor bastard climbs up a tree and asks him by weight if he has heard a kind word about Murphy. The next time we see the poor bastard, he's grinning from ear to ear. Now he's one of Murphy's blends in his Spokane stronghold. Wesson is responsible for selecting people who receive the bled vaccine based on what skills they possess. If Murphy is going to create a new world order, he will need people with different professions. Farmers, electricians, bankers and others. Although bankers as such are not needed, they are assigned to duty in the toilet. Those with the necessary skills receive a vaccine that Murphy was able to develop himself by eating Dr. Murch's brain. Murphy notices a man behind the fence, and Murphy's name is the only one on the current list of people. Whatever the person was planning, it looks like it will be an internal job, since he seems to have received the blend vaccine. Meanwhile, Doc and 10K reunited with Roberta, Eddie, Sun May and Hector.
Warren.
You've been searched.
Counter question, where have you been? 10,000.
Roberto is a little incredulous about the condition of the 10K, although he does not reveal his status as a blend, despite Doc's assurance that he can trust their fearless leader. So far, 10 is telling everyone about Murphy's big plans in Spokane, the road to which is filled with even more terrible deeds of the Red Hand. Murphy's company also takes to the road, and the gang notices a truck broadcasting his message.
Whoever steals cars pays with their lives.
When they catch up with the car, it is attacked by the Red Hand, and the driver of the blend is dead at the wheel, which shows that the blends do not return as zombies after death. 10K then reveals Murphy's plan to bring his daughter Lucy back from her foster home in Springfield, Illinois. Song May suggests that Lucy may have inherited her father's immunity to the Z virus, and Roberta comes up with a secondary mission, to get Lucy before Murphy does. The team is splitting up. Doc Eddie is assigned to find Lucy, and Roberta, Sun May, Hector and 10K are sent to Spokane to try to stop Murphy's New World Order. When the team from the window stays outside the city, 10K runs away after Hector discovers Murphy's bite. Meanwhile, at the Museum of Progress, Murphy is meeting with his colleagues to discuss plans to resume power supply. Since Murphy foresees that not everyone will agree with his plans for the development of civilization, he orders a basic training program so that his fortress can be defended. The man insists that he wants to help Murphy, and demonstrates his special skills by exposing the insides of the poor bastard's skull when Murphy declares that he needs brains for his research. Murphy then tests the man's loyalty by ordering him to eat the exposed brains. That's what a person greedily does. In the flashback, it turns out that the man used some dude's severed hand to imitate a blend vaccination, and when he brings Murphy his own plate with delicious brains.
Feeling better? Of course, pass the mustard, please.
That represents a gun to Murphy's head. A man has been sent to deliver Murphy to an unknown client, and when Murphy protests, the man shows him something that can make him more compliant, his daughter Lucy in the back seat of the car. In fact, this is baby Cassidy, whom a man mistakes for Lucy and who manages to overcome his abductor. Now the man is handcuffed to Murphy's Electron, but his interrogation about the identity of his employer is interrupted by the amazing news: the electricity is ready to turn on. Murphy and his colleagues climb to the top of the clock tower and watch as sweet electricity lights up the city of Spokane. It is truly a magnificent sight. Murphy 1, Apocalypse 0. Well, sort of, because Murphy gets hit when he returns to his throne room and discovers that the man has escaped and left his former captor a little message. His own severed hand, the one that was handcuffed to the throne with the middle finger raised. Citizen Z successfully guides Kaya, her uncle and grandmother to the Northern Light listening station, where they manage to restore the power supply and send a signal of hope, which Doc and Eddie receive on the radio while en route to Springfield, Illinois. On the way to find Lucy in Illinois, the truck breaks down.
One word, finished.
However, sirens announce the arrival of a retro presidential limousine, in which there are old friends. It turns out that Sketchy is pretending to be the president of the Apocalypse, Askisi, the head of his company. Doc and Eddie reluctantly follow them to Waldrak, South Dakota, while Eddie thinks out loud about what they're up to.
Where are these idiots getting into again?
When they get to the Waldrag, they enter the salon and lure the locals out of hiding with intricate antics. Sketchy's passionate speech wins the ears and hearts of the locals, but his communication with the locals leads to their elected mayor declaring him president.
Who voted? No one. I am 192nd in succession to the throne.
Doc follows a local resident into a quarantine zone where patients are dying out like flies, and their only symptom is a yellow iris.
This.
Despite the fact that Eddie is ready to leave Walnark when the Kessie scam begins to fall apart, Doc convinces her to stay for a while to help the city figure out the cause of the illnesses. Zombies from the neighboring town of Rosette begin to invade Walnarka. Their residents were victims of the same disease as the residents of Walnark. This inspires Doc to get a motorcycle and go to Rosebud, where he identifies the source of the disease as a polluted water source common to both cities. However, when he tells the residents of the city about it, he is rejected by Sketchy, who just wants the elections and the collection of donations to continue. The mayor faints, and Doc proves his lich theory with her charcoal, which binds the poison in her blood. Zombies appear, several disgruntled victims, previous scams, sketches, and the sheer horror begins.
Alright, let's go.
Dina. In this horror, Eddie and Doc grab a limo and set off from South Dakota. A funny turn of events. It turns out that the winner of the election was actually Doc. Citizen Z and Kaya are transmitting from the Northern Light. But their sweet communication is soon interrupted by none other than Murphy, who bursts into their channel, preaching his company there is no fear anymore and advertising his miracle vaccine Murphy. Meanwhile, Roberta, Sun Mei and Hector are preparing to infiltrate Murphy's camp. Song Mei reflects on an experimental vaccine she is preparing that will supposedly weaken Murphy's mind control and preserve immunity to the Z virus. And Roberta breaks through the fence and runs after Murphy, who goes to one of the two toilets on the territory, one of which is designated as Mr. Murphy, and the other is all the others. Roberta takes refuge in the one that refers to her when a horde of zombies arrives on call, interrupting Murphy's reading time. Warren. He shouts after his thugs open the stall and discover that it is empty and the back wall has been torn out to provide a narrow exit. 10, who has since been found and intercepted, is called in by Murphy to answer a few questions about Robert. What exactly is she planning? 10 does not talk, so until further orders, he is on duty at the cleaner's post with a gas pump. After the incident in the toilet, she realizes that she can't handle Murphy alone. She needs an army and it just so happens that she is already wandering the streets and administering street justice Red Hand. Roberta, Hector and Sun Mei meet Hopper, a somewhat horny guy who claims to be a Red Hand drug dealer. He agrees to take them to a man who calls himself a Scorpion. After the story of a Scorpion, which is very similar to the story of Hector's life, up to his current redemption, Hopper leads Roberta and friends to the underground Seattle, a series of catacombs that now serve as the headquarters of the Red Hand. It's a nightmarish place with lamps, torches, crawling severed hands and neon signs of the guilty, one of which illuminates 3 people wrapped in barbed wire. Roberta is shocked by this creepy and strange sight, but she is forced to act after these people turn into zombies after the execution of the Hopper. After demonstrating their formidable zombie fighting skills, Roberta, Hector and Sun Mei finally appear before a Scorpion, who turns out to be Javier Vasquez. Yes, the long-disappeared participant of Operation Bitamark obviously lost his mind and turned into the very person who destroyed his life. Scorpion, the main perpetrator of the Gang of Zeros, who killed his wife and daughter in cold blood, and whom he now holds captive. Vasquez has gone so far that he doesn't recognize either Roberta or Hector. Even after they use different tactics, trying to awaken his memory, Roberta kisses him, and Hector, through tears of regret, tells about the murder of his wife and daughter. Hector is most finished off by Vasquez, who tells his thug to let him go so he can fight. Vasquez stabs Hector several times, claiming that he is the one and only Scorpio. Roberta removes him from this position and from life itself with the help of his machete, although Vasquez, it will be said, finally remembers her before beheading him. As Hector bleeds to death on the floor, Song Mei injects him with her experimental vaccine. It seems to have worked a little, since he does not turn into a zombie when he dies from wounds. The members of the Red Hand watched all this in stoic silence, although they now seem to be connected to Roberta as they are seen escorting her back to Spokane to deal with Murphy. The episode ends with a quick checkup of Doc and Eddie, who have arrived at Lucy's home in Springfield, Illinois. They see her playing with a bunch of zombies, and her foster father comes out of the house with a gun and opens fire on uninvited guests. Oh, and it looks like this isn't the last time we'll see Hector. He suddenly regains consciousness and opens his eyes, in which Cat's eyes are visible. It seems to be a new mix of zombie and human. Things continue to get more sinister at the Museum of Progress as Murphy tries to unravel the mystery wrapped up in the riddle that is 10K, he forces him to play a knife game, known from the android Bishop from the movie Aliens, which Tenka performs unquestioningly, even when he starts cutting his fingers. Murphy also gives Tenka a dose of the original vaccine that will restore his humanity, although Tenka refuses to take it. So Murphy seems to be solving everything. Everyone else seems to like being pale, while Tenka is almost Catholic. Maybe it's the name, Tenka. It's not just his name, it's his mission, his goal. Does he need a new mission, a new goal? Murphy whispers to him about it and starts calling him Thomas. Meanwhile, Doc Eddie is being held at gunpoint by the mock-up and package guardians of Murphy's daughter, a zombie-human hybrid, Lucy. Lucy looks 5 years old, which is a little more than she should actually be, but apparently, being Murphy's daughter, she grows up quickly. Doc and Eddie try to convince Lucy's foster parents that they know her real father and want to take her to him, but they are almost killed. When they don't report the correct password, which Murphy obviously assigned to anyone who might come after his daughter. Doc thinks it's a smurf because of the blue skin Lucy shares with her father, but no. Fortunately, Lucy herself took a fancy to these strangers during the interrogation and wanted to play with them. Unfortunately, Lucy games involve a bunch of zombies dressed up as pirates, princesses, clowns, cowboys and knights in the backyard. She is safe thanks to her ability to control zombies, but such fun and games can be deadly for Doc and Eddie. An awkward game of hide-and-seek takes a terrible turn.
Found it.
When Doc is forced to show mercy to a particularly quarrelsome Raggedy H, as a result of which Lucy throws a tantrum and runs away to the nearby forest. There she runs into the nasty Ender, but fortunately, her Aunt Eddie comes to the rescue. Back at the house, Lucy asks Doc about her mom, which leads to an epic retelling of the story of Murphy and Sirena with some fabulous touches. In the story of Doc, Murphy and Siren, the king and queen of the apocalypse, and Lucy was conceived while baking blueberry pie, which of course explains why she has blue skin. But why did Lucy's mom leave her? Well, after mom fought off the zombies who wanted to harm Lucy, she had to go on vacation to a distant country. Everything seems to be going well. In fact, Kettle's mom and dad agreed to let Lucy go on a trip with Doc and Eddie to see dad. Unfortunately, a man appears and spoils all the fun. He stabs and ties up Lucy's foster parents, which makes them think that Doc and Eddie have been lying to them all this time. The man knocks out Eddie and drives off with Lucy, after which Doc is forced to show mercy to an enraged package. The grief-stricken machete doesn't kill Doc at all until Eddie comes to his senses and finishes her off with a blow to the chest of a garden gnome. So, what's the best way to track down the man and get Lucy back? Doc and Eddie decide to split up. Doc runs to the nearest antenna to try to contact Citizen Z or Roberta, and Eddie jumps on a motorcycle and gives chase. Meanwhile, Lucy doesn't let her abduction go smoothly. In the car, she hangs out with a man incessantly, and when he tries to shut her up with a taser, she just screams with delight, "Do it again." The man goes to extreme measures, covers Lucy's head with a hood and ties a rope around her neck. It seems that Lucy mentally shares this experience with her father Murphy, who suddenly becomes hot and hard to breathe in Spokane. And that's not all. When a person takes off his hood, a surprise awaits him. Lucy has aged another 5 years. The episode ends with Tenka coming out of the Progress Museum and looking at a piece of paper on which his new assignment from Murphy is written. "We can only make out find Roberta and bring her to me, although the rest is ominously obscured." Doc is in a field with a portable radio and listens to a sultry female voice reading Edgar Allan Poe's Raven. It traces the signal to its source, a radio antenna located in the center of a castle-like structure. He finds himself in the surrounding garden, decorated with DIY love and care and infested with zombies. Some of them are invulnerable to shots, as they are covered from head to toe with dazzling trinkets, which makes them bulletproof. Zombies are also domesticated to some extent, they are not so much trying to eat Doc, as slightly mocking him. When Doc passes out, he gets a glimpse of the women in the house, Sarah, Linda and Camilla, who look like all kinds of adorable crazy problems. Doc gets special treatment as their guest of honor. He wakes up in a luxurious bedroom on a quilt, wearing clothes that seem to be hand-knitted. 3 women take care of his comfort, even take care of him and put his shaggy locks in a man bun. There is a lot of juicy stew and sweet dandelion wine. That's all well and good, but Doc needs to use their radio to try to contact Citizen Z. They let him try, but his attempts to broadcast anything fail. The ladies claim that the walkie-talkie is solar-powered and does not always work well, but a tricky shot taken by the camera under the table shows that the wires to the microphone are not connected to anything. Unaware of the possible danger yet, Doc enjoys the company of his hosts while they wait for the morning to check if the radio is working with the sunrise. Sarah is happy to show off her beautifully designed macabre album, which depicts her ex-husband with a Colombian tie cut through his throat. Camille seduces with a passionate recitation of Edna St. Vincent's song By the Mile I Will Write Horror in 14 lines, accompanied by Linda's skillful playing on the organ. Obviously, it scares him a little that they crowd around him every moment. He tries to justify himself to go to bed, and they take out a pipe with grass. He says they are all angels, asks if he is in heaven and if they are sisters of mercy, and they agree to both. After smoking a little, he goes to the room they have allocated to him, but he is interrupted several times by each of the ladies.
I remembered that I didn't show you my collection. I've sharpened your sword in case you need it at night.
Having removed each of them, he tries to block the door. However, as soon as he lies down, they all appear in the room and climb onto the bed in their underwear to seduce him. The next morning, Doc wakes up to find all 3 of them in bed with him. He looks around, but can't find almost all of his clothes. He leaves the room and goes to the kitchen to spray water on his face. Looking into the sink, he sees there what is left of the stew of the previous night and a finger in it. Suddenly, Doc hears a transmission from Kai on a walkie-talkie. He runs to the transmitter, hoping that it now holds a solar charge. Doc picks up the phone and tries to contact Kaya, but soon discovers disconnected wires under the table. Suddenly Linda bursts in and attacks, forcing Doc to retreat back into the house. After carefully examining the rooms, Doc suddenly realizes that Camilla, Linda and Sarah have decorated their home with human skin, hair and bones. He runs into the basement, trying to hide from them, but discovers several men tied up there. He asks who they are, and one of the guys replies that it's him in 10 minutes. The sweet hashish they smoked last night is grown from the skull of some poor guy they keep in the basement. There are other prisoners, their flesh and bodies are used to provide the ladies with raw materials for creativity. After Doc manages to free one of the prisoners, he returns to the living room, where he finds 3 women wearing masks made of human skin and with a rather scary weapon. It looks like they want the Doc to be their last art project. Sarah manages to pierce his chest once while he tries to fight them. But, fortunately, prisoners appear from the basement and attack, allowing Doc to retreat to the radio tower and lock himself in there. Doc manages to fix the radio and contact Citizen Z, who is surprised and glad to hear from his old buddy. Doc asks Z to give Roberta an urgent message. Lucy is kidnapped by a man, and she and Eddie set off in pursuit. At this time, Camila, Linda and Sarah break down the door to the radio tower, but Doc manages to climb the ladder to the top of the antenna. The ladies decide that they will just sit and wait, drinking tea and watching what is happening, because in the end he will have to come down, right? Doc is taking drastic measures. He knocks out the carrier cable and starts swinging the antenna back and forth. As a result, she falls and lands on the other side of the fence. "Peace be with you, bitches," Doc exclaims, falling down with the antenna, and runs away across the field in his pink robe. Returning to the Northern Light listening station, Kaya was able to track the last transmission of a person on a mobile phone. Now they have his coordinates and Lucy's coordinates. It remains only to give them to Roberta, but so far she is not answering Citizen Z's calls. The episode ends with Doc stealing a bike from a zombie and going to reunite with Eddie, Asra. Camilla and Linda attach hair from Doc's beard to Sarah's album in memory of the one who left. Murphet he is under siege. Roberto and Son may have teamed up with the Red Hand and are preparing to make history at the Museum of Progress. They don't know yet that they are being helped by Kai from the Northern Light, who is conducting full surveillance from the window, and Citizen Z and Casca are heading straight to Washington in a small biplane. Roberta manages to grab poor Ten, who seems to follow Murphy implicitly. She is a little rude to him and finds his order from Murphy written on a yellow piece of paper. "Find Roberta and bring her to me. If she doesn't come, kill her." Roberta injects Ten to the original vaccine to see if it will rid him of the status of a blend. And then they were blessed with the presence of Murphy himself, looking like a dictator in a black coat, black gloves, with recently peroxide hair and the last remnants of blue skin forming a striking scar around his left eye. He and Roberta exchange their usual opposing views of the world.
Dyson may her blood so that she can prepare a vaccine against the zombie virus.
After that, he takes 10K back to his lair, being sure that this motley group will not be able to get into his fortress. Although he is visibly shaken when the Red Hand turns off the electricity, and suddenly a banner hangs from the tower of the museum, urging Murphy's followers to be afraid. 10K goes with one of Murphy's followers named Auerbach to the Washington Water Company to get the electricity back. After Auerbach was shot by several red-armed men when he tried to reason with them, 10K is being attacked by zombies. A similar vaccine, which Roberta gave him, began to work. Fortunately, he is rescued by none other than Red and 5K. However, they do not have time to go far, as Murphy calls 10K back to the museum. At this time, Roberta and Song May manage to get into the Progress Museum, and the siege of Murphyton is in full swing. Murphy watches the carnage from the safety of his throne room and occasionally uses his mind control powers to give his soldiers a little confidence. Song May heads to the lab, and Roberta goes in search of Murphy, but Hope soon discovers her. Hope fires her weapon at the intruder, but misses, allowing Roberta to pierce her chest with her machete. "Murphy loved you," Hope exclaims quite shrilly, falling to the floor. Meanwhile, Song May is settling into the lab when she is discovered by 10K, who admits that he feels a little confused. Red and Pyatka appear and convince him to help Song May, although he believes that these are just hallucinations. Red proves that she is real and gives Ten a passionate kiss, which seems to rid him of all the hallucinations that remained in his body. He helps Song May with the preparations, but they are soon discovered and held at gunpoint by VS and his thugs. Finally, everything comes to what we've been waiting for so long: Roberta versus Murphy. Roberta appeals to Murphy's Z impulses by offering him the brains she cut out of Hope's skull, which proves once again that this sociopath has lost his humanity. They get into a fight, with Roberta trying to dodge Murphy's teeth as he tries to bite her. In the end, Roberta grabs the gun from him, but is forced to retreat when little Cassidy appears and hugs Murphy. The hype is interrupted by the sound of Citizen Z approaching himself. Uncle Casca manages to make a not very successful landing in a nearby field, where his passenger finally gets to know Roberta, 10K and Murphy personally. Citizen Z transmits Doc's message that Lucy has been abducted by a human, prompting Murphy and Roberta to declare a truce and plan a rescue operation. Citizen Z would join them, but he is suddenly inspired by the desire to return to the Northern Light as soon as possible when he receives the amazing news: Kaya is pregnant with their child. The episode ends with Eddie setting off in pursuit of the man, noting the small landmarks left by Lucy in their footsteps. Eddie found Lucy at the old shipyard, where the zombie princess, who looks about 10 years old, is playing with her new zombie buddies. It seems that Eddie and Lucy will be able to escape punishment until a man appears and hits Eddie in the face with a gas can. Eddie and the man engage in a deadly battle, from time to time moving away to fight the zombies excited by Lucy's screams. The man wins in the first round, as he lures Eddie into a trap on a burning boat, from which she manages to get out just before the explosion. Fortunately, Lucy left behind a severed zombie arm, which points Eddie in the right direction and the chase begins again. Lucy continues to be a pest on the road, teasing a person with her new favorite song "You Will Die, They Will Eat You." In response, the man ran over several zombies until Lucy promised to be quiet. It's all quite charming. Eddie wins the second round as she manages to ambush a checkpoint, shoot a man and take his truck and hostage. Eddie and Lucy leave, and the man pauses to evaluate the bullet-resistant properties of his Kevlar vest. Meanwhile, Doc is still on his motorcycle hot on Eddie's trail. At the boat station, he finds a message left by Eddie and a severed zombie arm that points him in the right direction. Believing that the man is dead or at least significantly injured, Eddie and Lucy arrange a shopping trip. Eddie looks even more like a fighting figure in her sexy new outfit, and Lucy learns that protection and practicality are the best way to plan her apocalyptic wardrobe. Lucy throws a little tantrum when it comes to her mother, insisting that there is no way she can be dead. Eddie explains to her the harsh truth of the zombie apocalypse: people are dying, and the more you love them, the more likely they are to die. More than Lucy's growth is interrupted by the sudden appearance of a man. Lucy runs to the river, and the man and Eddie chase her. The man and Eddie are fighting like crazy again, with Eddie getting particularly hard blows as the man dislocates her shoulder. The man wins the third round and leaves with Lucy, leaving Eddie broken and beaten on the rocky shore. Speaking of growing pains, Lucy is going through another sudden jump in the truck. Now she looks about 15 years old. And she craves chocolate. The man is desperate that he now has a teenager in his arms, reluctantly agrees to go in search of her sweet treat. Meanwhile, Doc stumbles upon DeLorean, from which he and 10K appear, dressed as Doc Brown and Marty McFly, but this is just a hallucination. Get off the Z-grass, document elsewhere. Eddie somehow gets to his feet and even manages to do a few Z's before he hits his shoulder against a tree again. The man and Lucy stopped at the store in search of chocolate. Lucy continues to communicate with zombies, insisting that they tell her their names and express their humanoid desires. Lucy gets tired of the man's bullying and impatience, and she goes out the back door, leaving him to deal with her zombie friends. Outside the store, Lucy bites the hand of a zombie in Grandpa's sweater and seems to be entrusting him with some kind of task. She manages to start the truck, and it rushes around the block, eventually crashing into a man who escaped from the store. Revenge for all the zombies he picked up on the road. On the way, Lucy meets Eddie, but their calmness is short-lived when a man appears from under the truck. The man drives off with Lucy again, leaving Eddie with a broken motorcycle. Eddie notices an approaching car and throws the female driver onto the road. But he does not have time to go far, as he realizes that there is a little daughter of a woman in the back seat. She gives the girl a gun that was lying on the dashboard, and the girl proves that she is quite capable of coping with it when she deals with an approaching zombie. She reunites with her mother when Eddie leaves. Further down the road, Eddie meets Doc, who is speechless at the sight of his beaten girlfriend. Without saying a word, he gets into the car, and the two of them drive off in pursuit of the man. Elsewhere, a zombie in a grandfather's sweater continues its lonely journey, stumbling in an unknown direction. Since then, Lucy has experienced another sudden growth spurt and looks about 18 years old. She changed the mockery of a person to a quiet, zen calm, which is actually her psychic communication with her zombie grandfather, who provides GPS assistance to Doc and Eddie, who set off in pursuit. Lucy. The old man growls repeatedly, his bony finger pointing the way. Not far behind them is the rescue team, consisting of Roberta, Murphy, Sun May, 10K, Red and 5K. They are on their way to Mount Casey thanks to the brilliant surveillance work of Kai, who is a little worried that there has been no news from Citizen Z for 12 hours. Meanwhile, 10K looks even worse than usual, although Song May does not want to give him more medicine, since he has been stuffed with all sorts of rubbish all season. The man and Lucy arrive at the meeting place on Mount Casey, where they are met by a crowd of zombies. The special forces arrived at the scene and dealt with them, although the soldiers look worse, as their glowing eyes show that they are losing immunity. The man tells them to arrange air transport to the zone for him and Lucy. Doc and Eddie are the first to arrive at Mount Casey, where they do not have access to the entrance taken by a man. Grandpa points to the top of the mountain, which inspires Eddie to start climbing, leaving Doc waiting at the massive door. The climb turns out to be treacherous and she has to throw her favorite bat. Doc decides to smoke some Z-weed, but his buzz is soon destroyed by the appearance of new zone soldiers. They tie up Doc and Grandpa and get into the entrance to the mountain, but soon come out of there, faced with zombies and become zombies themselves. The situation is not going well for Doc, until Roberta and the gang appear, who quickly deal with zombies. Roberta blows Grandpa away before Doc has time to explain his meaning, but it's not a big deal. They all enter the mountain, ready for a battle with a man. The rescue team makes its way through the catacomb-like structure, but does not have time to go far, as 10K collapses. Suan-Ma-Yi says that in order to save 10K, they have to kill him. Just like Murphy technically lost consciousness after being attacked and bitten by a zombie years ago. The plan is this: Robert will strangle 10 to death, after which Murphy will bite him, and Sun Mei will give him the original vaccine. Sun Mei, Red and 5K stay with 10K, while Roberta, Murphy, and Doc confront the man and Lucy at the top of the mountain. Murphy and Lucy have a brief tender reunion before everyone starts shooting at each other. The man fires a bullet that goes through Murphy's stomach, comes out the other side and hits Roberta's stomach. They fall to the ground. The man knocks Doc out and grabs Lucy, carrying her, kicking and screaming, to the waiting zone plane. At this moment, Eddie appears, having overcome the entire mountain. She grabs the man and they both fall over the edge, falling backwards. Lucy soon follows her, shouting after her Aunt Eddie. Then 5 appears and follows Lucy over the edge. The Sinister Zone ship then opens fire and appears to destroy Murphy, Roberta, Doc and everyone else on the mountaintop.